break on a Monday. Good morning, everybody. Hope you all had a wonderful weekend, especially all the mothers out there. Skip Bayless, Stephen A. Smith, Molly Karam. Gentlemen, how we doing?
How you doing?
How are you?
Good morning. How's everybody?
Good.
Good.
Ready to go?
I'm always ready. Let's roll.
All right, let's talk some playoffs. That's where we're going to start things off. We are now down to the best of three between the Spurs and Thunder. After the two-game split over games 3 and 4 over the weekend, Kawhi Leonard led the Spurs to victory with 31 points in game 3, but then Kevin Durant topped Kawhi with a 41-point performance in OKC's game 4 win. Stephen A., what was the difference in games 3 and 4 this weekend?
Well, the difference was twofold, Molly, Skip. One was the greatness of Kevin Durant come shining through, considering the level of explosiveness he displayed yesterday, particularly in the second half. I think he had like 26 in the second half. I think he had like 17 in the fourth quarter. He showed up, and he played like the superstar that he is and propelled them to victory, which evened this series at 2-2, because had they gone down 3-1, it would be over in a couple of days, and the San Antonio Spurs would be moving on to the Western Conference Finals because they weren't going to lose a Game 5 to Oklahoma City being up 3-1. So in that regard, I give him a lot of credit. But I also want to give some credit to the combination of Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook, not just because Russell Westbrook had 15 assists, but also, unlike Game 3, when in the last three and a half minutes or so, they combined for 3 pivotal turnovers. They didn't take care of the basketball. Russell Westbrook on 2 occasions, Kevin Durant on an errant pass. But also because, obviously, with them not turning the ball over and being as effective as they were as a combo, you got to give credit where credit is due. And it's not just the 15 assists on the part of Russell Westbrook, Skip. It's the fact that he was so critical of himself in the aftermath of Game 3. Obviously, I was there Friday night at the game and watching him during the press conference and beyond. He was very hard on himself because he knew that there were shots that he should not have taken. I never heard that from him before, but he knew there were shots that he should not have taken. He knew that there was a level of aggression he should not have been displaying in terms of taking those shots. Probably should have gotten the ball to KD a little bit more, et cetera, because he hit 3 of his 6 shots in the fourth quarter on Friday night. But in the end, recognizing whatever mistakes that you made in Game 3, coming back and making amends for that in Game 4 the way that he did, combined with the greatness of a Kevin Durant who showed up and played the way we all know that he's capable of playing, being 6'10", 6'11", with a 7'6" wingspan, with the ability to shoot to pull up from 30, has a handle to go with it. He's his own freak of nature, and there's no reason why he should be a bit timid in any way offensively, particularly when the game is on the line, or ineffective, I might add, because he's offensively efficient as well. And so when you look at it from that perspective and understand that they both came back and propelled their team to victory in Game 4, I think those are the 2 reasons. The greatness of Kevin Durant, the unselfishness and the self-awareness of Russell Westbrook. Those are the 2 ingredients as to why they propelled themselves to victory in Game 4.
All good points. One point that just struck me, you were there on Friday night. I wish you had stayed last night because you brought good luck to our Spurs on Friday night, right?
Or bad luck to OKC.
Well,
or
maybe.
Bad luck to OKC.
So I wish you had stayed, but you couldn't stay last night, unfortunately for us, because they are now our Spurs because we both picked them to win the series. And I'm assuming we are sticking by our Spurs in 7 predictions despite what we saw last night, correct?
Yeah. Yes, but you'll forgive me. I couldn't stay there because it was Mother's Day. You know where I was yesterday.
Okay. That works. Well,
That's right.
I wish I could have been there because my mother lives in Oklahoma City, but she knows I love her, and I talked to her, and I sent flowers. I did it all yesterday.
I got it.
Hi, Levita. She's watching right now. All right, so back to Molly's question. What was the big – look, the big difference last night was what I feared it would be. The more desperate team playing at home with 2 of the best 3 players in the world won the game the way they should have won the game. The Thunder just wanted that game more than my Spurs ultimately wanted that game. Ultimately, the Thunder played harder, they played smarter, they fought on defense. Coach Popovich said after the game, they just out-toughed us, and that's exactly what happened. Kevin Durant said it was as loud in that building as he had ever heard it. So I congratulate the Thunder fans because I think they played a 6th man role last night, although there were 6th, 7th, and 8th men who did contribute last night in shocks to me. But now back to the key basketball difference. Obviously, on Friday night when you were there, Mr. Smith, Russell Westbrook took 31 shots, just too many for the point guard to take. He made only 10 of those. Meanwhile, Kevin Durant took only 18 shots on Friday night. He made 10 also. He just didn't get enough shots. And we know what the outcome was. Spurs won that game. Then last night, I thought Russell Westbrook went out of his way, as you suggest, to make sure that Kevin got plenty of shots. So he winds up getting 25 last night, thanks to Russell Westbrook, and he made 14 of them. He went nuclear on my Spurs. And to your point, when Kevin Durant does that, it's over, man. I mean, Kawhi couldn't deal with him, the Defensive Player of the Year, 2-time. Danny Green couldn't deal with him. David West couldn't deal with him because nobody could have dealt with him. 22 of his 25 shots last night, Kevin Durant's, were contested shots. Well, if you're going to make that many contested shots, you're going to win that game at home, and ultimately, especially in the fourth quarter, Kevin Durant was just too much. He made 6 out of 6 shots in the fourth quarter alone, and it was a wipeout. And I must tell you, Mr. Smith, I was a little concerned because for the first time in this series, in the 4 games so far, my Spurs unleashed the beast. Not their beast, Oklahoma City's beast. Got unleashed in the fourth quarter, and the roof fell in on my Spurs. I'm going to remind you, they were up 6 with 11 minutes left in that game. That's pretty good, be up 6. Once again, they looked in control. And at that point, 2 very unlikely Oklahoma City Thunder hit the 2 turning point shots, not just in this game, but in this series so far. All of a sudden, Randy Foye hit a 3 from the corner, and then Enes Kanter hit another 3. I'm like, what? And all of a sudden, from up 6, it was even, and that building exploded. That set the stage for Kevin Durant to go nuclear. Meanwhile, may I please do this, if you will allow me.
Go ahead.
I'm objective about my Spurs. While Kevin Durant was going 6 for 6 in the fourth quarter, my new big 2, Kawhi, LaMarcus Aldridge, went a combined 0 for 7 in the fourth quarter. Kawhi Leonard on Friday night came up superstar big in the fourth quarter, had 13 fourth quarter points. Last night, my man Kawhi goose-egged it in the fourth quarter. We've been talking about, is he a superstar yet or just a star? Well, last night he was just a star. He had terrific stretches in the first 3 quarters, but when it was money time, Kawhi was not to be found. This is where he hasn't quite made that next leap into superstardom. I needed him. He wasn't there. LaMarcus got only 2 shots, missed those 2 shots. Oklahoma City ended up making 9 threes. My Spurs went 2 for 12 from 3. If you're going to go 2 for 12 on the road in a playoff game, you're probably going to lose it. And I credit Oklahoma City because they were hellacious on defense, on catch and shoots. They were all over every Spur coming off every pick. Nobody could get untracked and unleashed on my side. So it was Oklahoma City's night. I don't like it that from up 6, it was 32-12 the rest of the way. Think about that, Stephen A. They got outscored by 20 over the last 11 minutes. The point differential in the fourth quarter was the 2nd worst in a playoff game in Pop's coaching career. Not a good sign. So I'm going to be objective about this. I don't love how much momentum the Thunder are going to be able to take to San Antonio for a pivotal Game 5. But sometimes things just switch up. I'm sticking with my Spurs in 7 pick.
Well, so am I, simply because of Game 7 in San Antonio. I think they'll be up for that, and I don't think the open shots that they had available to them last night are something that they'd miss in a Game 7 or a Game 5 for that matter. I think that's what bodes well for them. I see both teams protecting their home court for the rest of the way, unless Kevin Durant goes berserk, and there's absolutely positively no way. To me, that's the X factor. It's going to have to be Kevin Durant, which is apropos because this is a guy that's approaching free agency. Much is being made about where he will end up playing, whether he'll stay in OKC or move beyond it. Obviously, him being universally recognized, one of the top 3 players in the world, it's one of those situations where it may very well, ironically, come down to a moment, a defining moment in the career of Kevin Durant at this particular juncture, where if San Antonio protects their home court and then OKC goes back and protects their home court and they're 3-3 and a Game 7 is forced, we know that it comes down to superstars at that particular moment, and Kevin Durant is a superstar. And so because he is a superstar, all odds are going to be, how is he going to perform under such duress? The only way to avoid that is to win the next 2 games. But when you look at what transpired, you got to remember the Spurs shot 7 of 21 in the fourth quarter yesterday. Skip, a lot of those shots were open shots. They just didn't make them. They just missed them. And so if you're a coach, you're Greg Popovich, and the system that you're employing, and you're seeing guys literally standing out there taking pictures, hollering at their wife or their girlfriend saying, hey, how you doing? I hope all is well, before they take a shot, for crying out loud, and they still miss it. What more can you do as a coach? Ultimately, you've got to hope that shots fall. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. You can tell the difference between somebody that's playing bad and somebody that's just missing shots.
Yep.
Kawhi Leonard just missed shots yesterday. LaMarcus Aldridge has just been missing shots over the last 2 games. He shot 8 for 21 in Game 3. And so when you look at it from that perspective, you got to ask yourself, do you think this is going to continue? The thing about San Antonio is, now that Kawhi Leonard and LaMarcus Aldridge is the focus and the cornerstones for that franchise, you got to ask yourself, what can they do offensively? You know what they'll do in effort. You know what they'll be able to do defensively. But what will they do offensively? That's a question mark for San Antonio.
Yep.
The question for OKC is, Kevin Durant, are you going to be that superstar that we all know you to be?
And if I might, I need to pay my respects to another superstar, or at least former superstar in this series. And speaking of irony, remember what you were saying down the stretch of the regular season? Your one fear, your one concern about Coach Popovich is he would stick with his veteran big three too long in these playoff games. Last night, Tim Duncan didn't score. First time in his playoff career, he did not score a point. He played exactly 0 seconds in the fourth quarter. It's pretty significant. It was like a watershed moment to me, because if you recall a year ago against the Clippers in those 7 games, best Spur on the floor for those 7 games was Tim Duncan. Has he finally hit that wall, that father time wall? I'm not sure. Was he saving him for Game 5 because it was too quick a turnaround off Game 3? But David West played all 12 minutes of the fourth quarter. And I got to tell you, I'm a Spurs nut. I didn't love it, Stephen A. And he took the most shots of any Spur in the fourth quarter, made 2 of them, 2 for 6. He did a few nice things. He fights, he scraps. We know all that. It just hurt my heart a little bit that at money time, Duncan wasn't in there, at least for a little stretch, to protect the rim from Russell Westbrook and Kevin Durant. So something changed big time. Are we going to see David West down every stretch from here on through whatever we got left?
Let's understand something. David West came here to be a reserve. He didn't come here to be in that kind of situation. So if he was placed in that kind of situation, then obviously it was because Greg Popovich thought it was necessary. And if you know anything about Greg Popovich, who, you know, I'm here to tell you is one of the best people you could ever meet. This guy, I don't care how he comes across his interviews and all of that other stuff. He's a good man. And on top of it all, he loves his players. And there is nobody that I can imagine that he has more love for than Tim Duncan. And so it just struck me the way it hit me, Skip. It came across as him being protective of Tim Duncan and recognizing that, you know, this moment, you don't have it. And so if this were a Kobe Bryant or whatever, everybody would just be going ballistic and going off and talking about what Kobe has lost and all of this other stuff. And I'm not, and obviously I don't think that's right, particularly with the atrocious circumstances he was working under. In the case of Tim Duncan, you ain't going to hear me say a negative word about this man. This man has been a treasure to the game of basketball. We're seeing Father Time having emphatically kicked in, and relatively quickly, I might add, because we expected to see some things from Tim Duncan that we just haven't seen during these playoffs. And so it's just one of those situations where I don't care if he doesn't play a minute. The level of reverence, deference, and respect that he deserves, he will always get from here. I can tell you that.
No, I think we're both paying him respect, but it was kind of a sad, momentous moment that on the bench, fourth quarter. Wow.
Yeah.
Tough to watch. All right, but regardless, you guys still have the Spurs in 7 with the final game there in San Antonio. Let's go to the Eastern Conference and the Cavs side.